Hello everyone and welcome to round number 3 of the F1 Race Department Championship. This is season 10 of it on the PlayStation 4. Myself and Michael Fleming here with you. And as you can see, it's currently a wet qualifying session. Going to be our first wet qualifying session of the season.
So we've already had a spin.
Yep, this is going to throw out a whole new variable, because I know a lot of the drivers don't really like to practice in the wet conditions. I noticed Mikey's gone out on the option tyre. I'm assuming the game is telling everybody to be out on slicks, but I certainly don't think that this is slick tyre weather. We've got a spinner, sharpshooter, spinning it around in the Mercedes. I think he is indeed a reserve for this week. So good luck with us trying to keep up with what's going on.
Yeah, looks like Scythe is the first person to venture out on the intermediate tyres.
That's probably a good decision.
I mean, if the game's telling them super soft, then right now the super soft, well, the slick tyre will be the best tyre, but as you can see, it's probably deteriorating as Super Sharpshooter makes it 2 spins in 2 corners.
How how has he managed that? He's literally got to turn 2 and spun it.
It could be one of those situations where they didn't realise it was no assists, but we'll give them the benefit of the doubt for now.
Yeah, well, and there's a third.
Oh, yep, it's backwards.
I'm pretty sure people know how to read, but...
Ooh.
And of course you're getting into that territory where his rear tyres are going to be overheating now, because despite the conditions, spinning them round and spinning them up like that probably isn't going to help.
Definitely not. A bit of a traffic jam in the final sector as well. Guy backing off to make some space. We've got a Super Sharpshooter facing sideways once again. We do have Ben completing first sector now, having a heavy lock-up into turn 6. He is looking to be one of the fastest guys here in practice. We'll see how these conditions change it, but I don't really want to watch him right now.
I know I should be following everyone. Oh god, he's reversing back onto the track. Oh dear, he almost reversed into a horse. I believe Drew's come back into the pits for the intermediates. The guys that are out on the intermediates have probably played an absolute masterstroke right now.
Oh, Super Sharpshooter has made contact with the Force India.
Oh dear, and he's going to block the Renault there. I'm half...
I can't take my eyes off him.
I kind of wish... Oh, what is he doing? He's just rammed that Force India clean off the road.
That's going to hurt his time.
And he looks like a pad user, judging by those steering inputs. Is he going to make it round the long corner? Yes, he is. Barely. We've also got a dry to wet race. I don't know if I've mentioned that already. judging by some of our spotters. So that should be very interesting.
Is he going to pick his breaking point? No, he's not, and he's hit the ball.
Oh my god!
Who let him in
and he
the
almost
lobby?
crashed into the Renault. This is ridiculous.
How's he made that error?
Well, I'm just...
Please pit.
And he pits. And
Does he know how to make? Yes, he does.
Comedy hour has begun.
Get off the grass, mate. There you go. He didn't speed into the pits, that's about all I can say for that little foray onto the track. Meanwhile, Sean has taken the provisional as he runs wide. The other Mercedes is on pole currently. Off the track, but on pole. Mikey slots into second. Guy with an impressive lap in third. Luke is off the track currently at what I think is turn 10. Yeah. And all there's a McLaren idiot. The conditions just look so treacherous out there. It must be near that crossover point of slicks to inters.
Yeah, so like you said, the super soft tyre probably was actually the better tyre to be on. I mean, your intermediate runners are about 7 seconds off pole in Mitchell, and even more off pace with Scythe. But at this point, the intermediates are probably going to start coming in to their own. But unfortunately, you're not really going to get much lap time out of it. Well, you're certainly not going to get a high grid position, that's for sure.
No, those that have already set a time on slicks will be...
up to 7th position. Sorry to cut across you.
That's alright.
Oh, Caribbean Crush up to 4th with that one. Anyone else? Nobody else really. Oh, we've got a McLaren in the barriers. That's down turn 2, I think. He's just
Gatis pops up to second.
Oh, good lap there by Gatis. We've got JC off the road as well in the Renault. We've got Sharpshooter back out on circuit.
Oh, yes,
who
boys.
let him out on track. I wonder if he knows how to change tyres. He's crawling along, coming out of turn number 3.
Oh, dear.
Oh, and he's in the barriers again. And off with
he
another bit of front wing.
Definitely looks like a traction control user, because his throttle is either completely on or completely off.
Oh my god, what is he doing? We need to get rid of this guy. I'm sorry, but yeah.
This is what happens when you don't read the rules of the league and understand that assists are off.
And off he goes again.
See, I don't want to focus on him, but it is good entertainment. Jerry looks a bit out of fuel halfway around the circuit. That's awkward.
Mikey switched to the soft tyre, so I'm assuming that's what he's going to try and start the race on. Same with Guy. Oh no, they're going out for laps.
Interesting.
He's probably this is probably good actually. They're probably trying to feel the conditions out for the race. I can see Mitchell's actually put on the super soft tyre as well in the pits. Not sure if he's going to come out. Scythe's on his way out on the soft tyre. Morgan is off the road on a 2-minute lap. So I don't know if he's another assist user, but at least he's managed to set a lap time. Here comes Drew across the line. This will be his first lap. Well, to start his lap. So if you wouldn't mind, Michael, just taking us round for a lap of Shanghai on board. Drew.
Well, he's coming into turn 2 now. Difficult to try and get the nose plunged in there as you dip into turns 3 and 4. Get on the power as early as possible, which is fairly tricky in these conditions. Drew just short shifting his way up the gears through the kink of 5, normally 100-metre braking ball for 6, which he has done and remarkably made the apex fairly well there. Little kick of oversteer and exit as we come to two absolutely mega corners when it's bone dry. Drew will have to have a hefty lift here and a shift down into 5th as he makes his way through 7, getting the line right for 8 before preparing yourselves for the absolute lack of rear traction as you come through 9 and 10. Deals with it fairly well though, maxing out the revs to avoid any unwanted wheel spin down into turn 11, just missing the apex there, bit of a lock-up before heading into turn 12 here, which extends through turn 13. Wolford's crucial zone, very important to not lose the rear end on exit, get the best possible momentum out of that corner as you head down the back straight, which is over 1 kilometre long. There is Super Sharpshooter in the wall halfway down the straight. Don't know how that's happened. Drew brakes fairly late for the hairpin. Is that going to be too late? Slightly. He's missed the apex and didn't quite get the car rotated quickly enough, so he will have lost a bit of time there as he heads into the final corner now. Bit of an awkward 90-degree one, but he's taken it fairly sensibly on the soft tyres. Don't know where that's going to put him. It was a fairly impressive 7th place considering he is on the harder rubber.
That was a very good lap time. We've got Jerry out of qualifying. He's decided to park the car. Still got everybody doing laps. As look at that, that's Ben, I believe, up into the pole position on a 40.9, a mega lap in these conditions. So I guess it's drying out a little bit. Either that or just the level of grip is different. Super Sharpshooter is off the road once again. So we'll leave him. Where's Mikey? Mikey's just about to cross the line to finish a lap. He goes up to 2nd position on a 41.2 on the soft tyre. He'll be very happy with that one. Let's see where Sean is. Sean, I believe, is starting his lap. So it'll be a while before we know where he is. Gatis has just started another lap. Guy about to finish his qualifying lap. I don't think he'll cross the... No, he won't cross the line before he finishes. Sharpshooter has decided to call it a day. Rightly so. For the safety of everybody on the circuit, including the spectators. Guy up to 4th. Good luck from him. Whereabouts is Sean? Sean is in the middle of the track. More close to it. Mitchell in 6th. That's pretty much it, really. Until we get round to Thomas. About to come through the last corner. Got Hasnain behind him on circuit, and then obviously we're keeping an eye on Sean.
Well, Scythe pops into 10th place on his soft tyres, not getting too much of an advantage from that, but it's an absolute masterstroke potentially from Mikey and Guy as they place themselves high up in the top 10 and tyres that may well last through to the rain period. We know it's going to start raining later on in the race. It might save them a pit stop, so that could be crucial for them.
Hasnain crosses the line in 7th position. Sean goes up to 2nd place to finish things off. Actually not quite, because we've still got Andrea coming through the final corner, and we've got Frederick also about to finish his lap, and then we will be finished with qualifying. There we go. Andrea crosses the line now to finish 10th. And already the frustration of some of the drivers in the little party group chat. Understandably so from Caribbean Crush, who was the Force Indian driver that got pushed off by Sharpshooter earlier on in the session. So there we go. Ben will start this race from your pole position. Sean joins him on the front row. Mikey and Gatis are your second row. Guy and Mitchell your third. Hasnain, Caribbean Crush, Thomas, Andrea, Brown, Saif, Drew, and then the rest of your grid. I can't wait to see what kind of a start sharpshooter has, because that's going to be... I can't wait for that.
How far would he make it before he's sideways? Yeah, such a treacherous qualifying session for all the drivers. You never really like those ones where it's always in between two weather settings. You never quite have an ideal track. We never have close to an ideal track. But Ben has surprised me and not bottled it, taken pole. If his race pace is anything as good as what he has been doing in sort of practice, then he'll be in good stead. But we have to look out for those guys on the soft tyres. Mikey and Guy starting, I think, 3rd and 5th, fairly high up the field. So they could be in a good position depending on when the rain comes. The super soft runners will have to make a decision fairly early on as to whether they push hard and make an early pit stop for fresh rubber or try and extend their first stint to when the rain comes.
Yeah, so we've got 5 seconds before we find out who's going to lead that 265 meter dash into turn 1. The lights are on, the revs are rising, and away we go in China. Very good start there by Ben. Sharpshooters managed to get the car off the line, which is better than I thought he was going to do. Sean slots into 2nd position, Mikey slots into 3rd. Make that Gatis slots into 3rd. Mikey getting pushed out a little bit. Cars making movements in the midfield as well, but everybody looks to be through safely. Well, we've got 3 wide in the middle of the pack going down into turn number 6, and they've met in the middle. Somehow they've all managed to get out alive. Oh, the Armageddon section looking fantastic so far.
Yep, Hasnain and Luke going side by side through turn 8. Hasnain's big loser in that start process. He's lost 5 positions from where he started. Still going side by side, but yeah, 2 lots of 3 wide into turn 6. It is very, very well to not have that end in tears.
You've got some side by side action as well. Drew with a 5-second penalty already. I'm not entirely sure what happened there, but...
Super sharpshooters off the track.
Oh, what a surprise. He actually looks like a keyboard user, like he's using a keyboard for PC. I'm not quite sure how you managed to do that on an F1 game, but especially on PS4, as we go 3 wide into the hairpin with Jerry and his teammate. They're all getting through safely though. We've had no...
Hasnain has made 3 places back into P9.
He has, he's done a pretty good job there. I mean, yeah, we've not had any debris or bits of front wing hanging off any cars, which makes a change. As Saif tries to go down the inside for 11th position, rubbing wheels with the Ferrari of Brown as they come through turn number 4, and they get out alive.
Yeah, now Jerry wants to look up the inside at turn 6.
Oh, look at that dive bomb! Oh, he hits the back of his teammate Saif. He's not going to be happy with that. He might have gotten away with that. I don't know, I think he's got a little bit of damage to the right front wing. Let's just have a quick look. I believe he has. He's got a little bit of damage.
That would be a shame if he does. Oh, Brown coming close with Frederick there. Brown almost falling down the grid very quickly. Maybe he has some damage himself, I'm not too sure. But I have the most horrendous glitch whereby Ben is just lagging all over my screen no matter what happens, so that's brilliant. Super sharpshooter in the gravel in a very interesting place there. But the lead gaps are stretching a little bit. So far off the circuit, I can't tell.
Double left-hander. Well, this will be his first and last race, I'm pretty sure.
Yes,
because
Guy goes side by side.
I honestly don't think I'd want him back on the track. I know I'm supposed to keep it impartial as off the track he goes again, but we really can't have this sort of driving in the league. I mean, we've had great fun so far this season, and I don't want it ruined by someone that clearly shouldn't be on it.
Guy having to defend from Troy fairly hard towards the end of that lap, but some decent racing there. Guy struggling for pace at the moment on his soft tyres as opposed to most people's super soft.
Mitchell's trying to hustle the back of Mikey at the moment. Mikey with a pretty big lock-up into turn number 6. He's also on the soft tyre. He's got to try and keep those in and try and make them go as long as possible, because remember the track has, funnily enough,
on a straight,
sharpshooter has retired from the session. He's managed to crash and knock the right front wheel off the car on a straight. Really not sure how he managed to do that, because I mean the curb's so far away from where he's actually ended up. That's quite peculiar, but thank goodness he's out of the race.
Mitchell looks up the inside of Mikey, gets the fairly clean overtake done. It looks like the conditions are fairly cloudy, there's not a lot of track temperature, and they're all struggling a little bit for grip. Mikey especially, there's a soft tyre runners not being able to get enough heat in their tyres to actually be effective at this point, so Mitchell fairly comfortably quicker than Mikey at this point. He moves into 4th. I think Sean had a bit of a difficult turn 12-13 section because he drops about half a second to Ben, and Gatis is now right on his tail. Otherwise, fairly quiet at the front.
Yeah, I've just seen Scythe make an overtake for 10th position down there in the hairpin on the back straight, so he's at least one of the soft tyre runners that's making a bit of progress. We'll see if he can catch up to the back of Hasnain and have a go at him as the laps go on. Everybody pretty much spread out for the rest of the pack. Yeah, although DRS is active, so I'm pretty sure we are going to see a bit more overtaking fairly shortly.
Yes, of course, stark contrasting to last weekend or last week, where all of the top 5 were split by less than a second between each other basically, and it was a very eventful race. This one looking a little bit more quiet, but we still do have that element of rain to come later on, so we'll see how that impacts things.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of had to expect it. I mean, obviously they're 2 different tracks. Bahrain is fantastic for racing. I mean, we saw in the real life Bahrain Grand Prix that fantastic races do happen there. China not so much. Lots of long corners that knock the air off your front wing, making it difficult to follow other cars. And obviously, unless you're in DRS, you're in a bit of bother, which... And also, it does tend to cancel itself out with the gaps as they are, because everybody will have DRS.
Yep. Not the easiest track, as you say. Bahrain is sort of a one-off, as we saw in the real-life race. A lot more overtaking there was possible than you'll see probably for the rest of the season. So, yeah, China not quite owing to that level of overtakeability. As Drew put on a nice move on Brown into turn 1, also the 2 Hatters having a nice little battle at the end of the last lap. Guy continues to defend from Troy, who's getting ever more impatient tucked up behind him, and it's a very decent showing from Andrea in 8th there. Not under too much pressure right now and driving a fairly steady race in the points, so that's really good from him.
Yeah, I've got to say as well, Jerry with the hard charger of the race award so far. He's up 4 places off his starting position, so he's doing very well indeed. As Guy gets himself a penalty, probably for cutting the last corner. Just had Caribbean Crush overtake him, as I said that, for 6th position. Jerry's just made another position up to 12th. Either he's made that position or he's defended it. I'm not entirely sure. I'm pretty sure he got 12th on that last position. Scythe is still 10th. Really not seeing that many overtakes. But like you mentioned, the rain is coming. And that does tend to throw up a few spanners in.
Yeah, and I think it's a question now of how long those super softs can go. The leaders will be thinking about where they're going to file in if they are to pit within the next sort of 2 or 3 laps, and they're just about breaching the back end of the field now in terms of a pit stop. So if they were to pit, they'd probably come out just in behind the pretty tame Armageddon section of this race, but where most of the field is bunched up. Ben having a little bit of a poor lap there and flying back towards Sean. Mazice is actually looking fairly racy. I wasn't quite expecting him to have this level of pace in the dry, but looking very, very good at this early stage. Looks to be one of the quickest of the top 3.
Yeah, I'm hoping he's not making a mistake here and just trying to throw everything at the driest portion of the race, and then just leaving himself with nothing for the wet section of the race. As we've got, who's that just dived into the pit lane across my camera lens? It was Hasnain pits. Very early pit stop, it's only lap 7. Doesn't look like the car's got any damage, so it doesn't look just like a tyre stop. He goes for the soft tyre. No, he doesn't, he goes for the super soft. The game just glitched out for me there and briefly put a set of soft tyres on his car. Not quite sure I agree with that strategy.
Well, if he wasn't going to make it to the rain period on that set, he might as well pit now for fresh rubber and get a major undercut if it won't be too long. But
we've just had Morgan in the barriers as well down at the hairpin, and he spun off at the last corner as well, just to add to the dramas. You better hope that the leaders aren't anywhere near him. They're just coming down that back straight, so he needs to get a move on very quickly. He has managed.
The rain is now coming down.
It's not for me yet. Yeah.
On my screen,
it is now on my screen. I can't see it from the off-board, but on the on-board I can see it streaming across the car. So. As we start lap 8 of the Grand Prix. Ben leads from Sean, Gatis in 3rd, Mitchell in 4th, Mikey managing to try and keep up. Behind, we've got a nice battle there for 11th position between Jerry and Thomas as they come through the final corner. Jerry with the DRS, so he should drive straight past, and he does. Guy up to 6th as well, and we've got Drew trying to get involved in that action as well. So the Armageddon section starting to come alive as Brown, with a fantastic bit of opportunistic driving, overtakes Drew down in turn number 2. Almost overtook Brown as well.
Yeah, that started last lap. Frederick really well defended from Andrew the lap before at turns 1 and 2, but coming into the heavy braking zone at the end of the lap, Frederick couldn't seem to make his mind up as to which line he wanted. In the end, juking Jerry a little bit, throwing it down the inside, and there was a great little move almost completely around the outside of the final corner, but couldn't quite get the move done. And as you say, Brown with a great bit of opportunistic driving to sneak ahead of Andrew in the process.
Yeah, we've got Frederick trying to pass Jerry as well, getting very racy as the rain has started. Obviously the drivers think now more than ever, otherwise you're going to get stuck with the wet. And we've seen in previous races that in wet races, drivers do tend to fall off quite a bit, so drivers trying to make their places where they can. We're almost going to have 3 wide down into the hairpin. Brown sticking his nose up the inside. Can he get past Jerry? Shoves Jerry a little bit wide. Gets the place. Drew's going to try and take advantage of that. And does so, or does he? Because they've all gone off the road a little bit. Brown, and yeah, Drew did manage to get past Jerry there. I did think I saw another car in the pits, but I think that was just a car driving off the road. It was Hasnain. No, Hasnain was the guy that pitted. trying to have a look down the inside of Brown there into turn 6. Other battles on the track, it looks like Scythe is closing up on the back of Andrea down the middle back straight. And then we've got Gatis and Mitchell getting close with each other. Third place.
Yeah, the top group all closing up a little bit now. I think we're starting to see those super soft runners towards the front struggle. Mitchell looking fairly racy in these conditions, and Mikey's tyres will also start to come to fruition. Guy finding some decent place to stage the race as well, but they all stay out, all trying to stretch the super softs to the switchover period, it looks like, as Andrea defends hard from Scythe into the hairpin at turn 14. Takes a defensive line into the final corner that could hamper his exit onto the start-finish straight.
Yeah, we've just had Drew overtake Brown into the hairpin, and they've all pretty much gone off in the background. As I was watching Scythe, I just oh! There's a horse off the road in the background. Brown's in the pits, and the horse is just trying to reverse to get himself back on the road properly. What tyres is Brown going to put on? He's going to put on the medium tyres or the soft? My screen shows the car on mediums. Nope, the mediums are just floating in the air, and he's driven off on the super soft.
Fantastic.
Well done, Codemasters. What a wonderful game you've made. As off goes Drew. Drew's running a little bit wide in turn 6. Very nearly spins it into the side of Jerry. All of that hard work undone, and he's now dropped behind Jerry, as I said. Very nearly took him out. Very lucky not to do so. Scythe right back on Andrea again as we go into the long right-hander onto the back straight.
Yeah, Mitchell sizing up a middle, Gatis down into the hairpin, but just gets out braked by the Latvian. The back marker did get in the way of Ben a little bit around turns 12 and 13, but it looks like Ben will be coming into the pits now to make his first stop. In fact, so does Gatis and Mikey.
Oh, look at this. Scythe got the run out of the corner on Andrea. Everybody pitting. Morgan with a 5-second stop gun penalty for speeding in the pits. Scythe's up to 4. Mikey is the first to blink onto the intermediate tyre. I'm not entirely sure that's... Well, I say that Scythe nearly loses it in turn 2. Caribbean Crush also on the intermediate, so that's going to be a very interesting strategy call. Andrea also on the intermediates. You've got yellows in sector 1.
Frederick spins at turn 2, but a very interesting split strategy there.
Oh, he spun it at turn 3. Can he hold it? No, he can't. It
Ben
probably
and
is
Gatis.
time for the intermediates.
Well, Ben is opting to go mediums to the end of the race. He doesn't think it's going to rain enough to warrant intermediate tyres. Mazais has gone to super softs, which I think suggests that he doesn't think it's quite time yet, but will be time soon. So he's gone to the fastest slick tyre possible. And a third strategy at this situation is that Mikey has come out on intermediate tyres, but he's lost a lot of time in the process there. I don't know where he has quite lost 10 seconds, 13 seconds to Ben in that situation. Whether he got held in the pits for some reason, I don't know, but he has come out way behind and lost touch with those two who are in the net lead, if you like.
Yeah, I don't think it's intermediate weather. He's driving very slowly. So I'm not sure that this is intermediate conditions. Sean and Mitchell have pitted while we're talking about that. So I wonder what tyres they're going to go for. Do they think Mitchell's going to go for the intermediates? I don't know what Sean's going to go with. Yes, he is. So maybe it is time for the intermediates. I wonder where Ben is. Ben's just crossing the line now to just pass the lot of them, and he's got quite a lot of grip in turn 1, so this is going to be very interesting to see whether those whether those slick tyres are actually going to last, because looking at Sean, he is very slow through turns 2 and 3, as Bohr almost just drove straight past him.
Well, on my screen, Ben is sitting in 18th as he now overtakes everyone at once on my leaderboard to go into third. That's just fantastic. But yes, as you can see, Sean is about to be overtaken by Gerard. No, he's not Gerard. Just getting on the grass there, but he's on softs that are now 11 laps old and seems to have more traction than Sean. Sean's sliding through turn 7. Tokyo Drift style as Bohr lunges it down the inside of 8 to get the job done. So yeah, it definitely looks as though the slick tyres are what you want to be on, and it could be that Ben has made a perfect strategy call here on the mediums. If it does rain, he can pit for inters. If it doesn't rain enough, he can pit for inters, but if it doesn't and it just stays at this sort of same level as it was in quali, where it never really makes that switch, he could be set for the rest of the race.
That might be a blinding strategy call. I want to see how Brown in the Ferrari is getting on. I'm going to keep an eye on his gap between him and Andrea. It does look like it's closing up a little bit, so it does look... Oh, as I say that, he's just driven off the road to prove me wrong. Saif pits from second place. What tyres is he going to put on? Is he going to follow the herd and go on to the intermediate, or is he going to stick to the slick tyre?
Mitchell's coming back into the pits.
Yeah.
He's already
Saif's
decided that it's slicks weather conditions. He's going to be losing too much time on the inters, and he's boxed immediately.
Yeah, Saif puts the super soft on and has a bit of a wiggle as he comes out of the pits. But yeah, it does look like the... Oh, Mitchell's gone for the medium tyre, which would be the tyre that I would probably choose. Having said that, it is, if you start on the super soft, you probably could get another set of super softs or the softs to the end at this point.
Well, it's the two different ways of looking at it. Do you think that there will be a switch over to intermediate tyres soon, in which case you go with the softest tyre, pump in the fastest laps until everyone is forced to change onto the inters? Or do you think it would be beneficial to slap on a set of mediums, attempt to go to the end of the race and hope that it never rains enough to cause that change to inters? There's also the way of looking at it, as you know, Mikey's done, in which case he's just pitted straight for inters, hope that the rain keeps coming down and that he will come into his own as DRS disabled now, and that normally signifies the switch over between which is the most effective type of tyre. So we could start to see the slicks lose performance now, and the intermediate tyre runners come into their own. I'm just looking at the gap between Sean and Andrew was all over Sean last lap, but Sean has now made progress, pulled away from Andrew, and is now starting to attack Bohr. So the intermediate runners might be coming into their own, and if that's the case, Mitchell will be absolutely kicking himself for boxing. Indeed, Mazai's already in after boxing only a few laps ago. This could well be for inters.
This is tremendous strategy. Ben has just pitted for the intermediates as well, so Sean takes the lead with all of that because he's stayed out on those intermediates. Guy takes second position as he's also stayed out on those inters. There's Ben in third, Gatis fourth, Mikey fifth. Where is Saif gone? Saif's pitted for the intermediates, so he's going to be kicking himself too, since he just literally pitted the lap before. And Mitchell on the medium tyre. So I don't think he's pitted yet.
He pitted for inters, and then the next lap came back in for mediums, thinking that it wasn't going to ever transition, and then in the last lap a huge track evolution has occurred, and now Mitchell off the track. He's got no grip. There is absolutely no luck for the reigning champion. He hasn't ruled it right. It's so difficult to get right, and he's on the bad end of it, and it doesn't look like he's going to score any points. I mean, it would be the first non-score for him, but he's managed to bring it home, I think, in 10th place in both the first two races, but it'll be hard pushed to do that now.
This is just as Mikey put it, the worst defence to a championship since Daniel Bryan against Sheamus, when that was a 12-second loss, but Mitchell is going to be absolutely furious. Drew, for some reason, is showing on the medium tyre when he's on the intermediates on my screen. Well,
yes,
on my
that will
screen
happen.
he's on the mediums, but... Oh, we've got another yellow flag somewhere. Oh, I hope that's not oh, it's Mikey. Mikey's off the road.
Oh dear.
Jerry's retired from the race. I don't know if they got involved with each other. No, Jerry's driving around turns 1 and 2. Well, his AI car is.
Mikey's lost a bit of his front wing and is pitting. I was going to try and make the point that Mikey's inters weren't going to last to the end of the race, having driven on a dry track for a fair few laps. But that is game over for Mikey now. He's lost the rear end, which we know he likes to do a lot, and he's put it in the wall. In the box with Mitchell, it's just been an absolute terrible race for them. But as far as we're concerned, I think Sean is in a hugely advantageous position now. Absolute genius call in the end from him to go straight onto the intermediate tyres. Guy finding himself in a favourable position as well, which I think Ben will deal with him fairly shortly. But yes, we thought Ben had made a master strategy call, but he's actually ended up throwing it all away.
Yeah, and as I'm looking at Benny Morgan, our new driver, signed up this morning, and he's on the full wet tyre, which is the completely wrong way to go. Currently 2 minutes and 42 seconds behind his next compatriot.
Yeah, when you're that far back, I mean, I don't. He can slap on a set of slicks.
God,
Oh
please
dear.
Oh dear! Please don't spin and take anybody out. I'm assuming that he's gone the way of sharpshooter in thinking this had some sort of assist.
It's not been a great showing. I've seen better debuts.
As I've been told to spectate something interesting from
Wow.
King Rockhammer.
Shane. Well, he is a master commentator and AOR champion, so we should probably listen to that.
As you said, Ben's just catching up to the back of Guy. Got Brown catching up to his teammate Mikey as well now, so that'll be interesting to watch.
Yes, of course, Brown for me still on the soft tyre on the screen, but on the inters according to the game data. Just fantastic bit of a game from Codemasters there. But yeah, definitely Ben looking the most racy at this point. Also Woody closing in on James at turn 6. That could be the next overtake. James actually doing a really good job there in 9th. Reserve struggled a lot in Bahrain, but he's found himself in a favourable position as of right now. And also, it has to be said, Gerard in the Haas didn't set a time in quali as far as I'm aware, and he's ended up currently in 7th place. As Thomas goes off, he's run wide at turn 11, so he was running in 6th, promoting Gerard up to 6th, as Ben makes a fairly simple move down the outside of Guy. Guy's going to hold it in there. I don't know what's going on.
Driving by those two.
Out.
That was good driving by those two. Very, very tight, but they managed to get through that without making any... Well, they probably made a little bit of contact, but nothing that affected either car. Ben now up to second position. The gap's 10.6 seconds, so we're going to see if he can try and catch up to Sean. Although, I mean, there are 11 laps left, so we've still got a long way to go. So it is possible, so we'll keep an eye on that. As Drew and as James and Drew having a bit of a ding-dong battle across the start-finish line.
I don't believe Drew's made that work. He managed to take him around the outside of the final corner, get a good run, but James fighting back at turn 1. He's running a little bit wide. He's going to recover it though. That's some great racing between these two.
Yeah, that is one thing I like about those first set of corners, is that you can do the switchback at least 2 or 3 times, and then have another overtaking spot into here. kind of like Bahrain, where you have the multiple corners. You have the attack into turn 1, and then you can keep the battleground all the way through to turn 4 and 5 on that circuit.
Guy refusing to be dropped by Ben here as they come onto the back straight. He might be a bit too far behind now. Ben getting a fairly decent exit out of there, but still fairly impressive from Guy. Gatis will be all over him to fight for the final podium position.
He's not too far off. We'll keep an eye on that gap. We've also got Drew trying to attack again. We'll see if he can make it stick this time around. Two different. I do like this corner. Again, you get several different driving styles, driving lines through there. Drew's going for a very tighter line through there, and he's got quite the slipstream. Is he going to get it stopped for the hairpin? Oh, he does,
dear.
But James doesn't. Takes him off the road.
Saif gets involved and takes that place off him for 10th place. Did Drew get some front wing damage? So it was a fairly hefty hit. That could be an issue for him.
Let me just have a look. No, there's no damage to his front wing, but he now has to contend with Saif behind him. Now, you know, I've mentioned many a time that Drew hates more than anything on this world to have Mikey Wolford driving up behind him. I think he just equally as much hates Saif Mahmood driving up behind him. I mean, it doesn't happen that often, but when it does...
Well, of course, he wouldn't be allowed into Andrew's country.
That's a very good point. I wasn't going to go there, but since you have gone there, yes. He would definitely be going into the security room with the security putting on their latex gloves and stuff.
Clearly both of them allowed in China though, and I guess Saif looks the more racy at this point. I think he's only ended up behind Drew because he made that extra pit stop. Also worth pointing out that Andrea, who was having a really good race at the back end of the top 10, has been caught out by the change in weather conditions. Has ended up making 3 stops and has fallen back down to 17th position, so pretty unlucky for him there.
We've got Morgan back in the pits. We've also got Gatis having a run at Guy down the down the pit straight. Not close enough to do anything yet. Although if Guy keeps driving off the road like that, he's going to give himself an opportunity to lose that place. Morgan with a 5-second stop-go penalty. He's back on the intermediate. Crossing the pit lane exit line. Back with this
Guy will do well to hold on to that. Gatis definitely looking much quicker at this point. It's sort of a question of when rather than if, and Gatis taking a variety of different lines, just trying to force Guy into a slower line so that he can attack out of any corner he wishes. But it looks like the best opportunity for overtaking does come at the end of the lap. If you can't get it done at the turn 14 hairpin, at least getting some sort of a cutback, forcing them defensive to try and set up a move into turn 1 is working for most of the drivers.
Yeah, we're going to see as they come onto that back straight. As we look on board with Gatis, he's in the slipstream. Got tremendous straight line speed difference, I've got to say, and just drives straight past him. Side by side down into the hairpin though. Good break in there from Guy. Gatis leaves him a bit of room, but eventually does wrestle that position off of him. He's up to 3rd place now. Hopefully we get to see Guy not fall off the back of him. I would like to see that route continue. Especially given the fact that Saif isn't exactly making the impression on Drew that we were hoping for. At least not yet.
Yeah. Everyone is unfortunately about 3 or 4 seconds apart from each other. Hasnain is going to dive into the pits. I believe that'll be a tyre wear related issue. And that could be something we see. I don't think the Inters have too much durability around here. At least you've got to be very careful on them. Lots of long, fast corners, putting load on the rear tyres, not to mention the acceleration zones. So if you're not comfortable enough on these tyres, it may be that you have to do another pit stop. So I don't think it's just wrapped up yet. Someone could have to pit again, and maybe the majority will have to pit again, and it will be rewarding the guy that can hold on to his tyres. But yes, still stuff to fight for here, unless you are the reigning champion or Mikey Wolford.
I mean, the spray is getting heavier. Well, at least on my screen it's getting a bit heavier, so... I mean, I don't think it'll be heavy enough to switch to wets, as off goes Scythe, losing a position, so he drops down to 10th place. But yeah, I don't think it'll be wet enough for the full wet tyre. It is getting a bit more treacherous. Not that you'd be able to tell it from some of these drivers, because they're driving completely well.
Too well. Where are the spins? We need super sharpshooter back in the lobby. Oh, a guy is indeed lunging into the pits, so I know he is generally a little bit more tougher on his tyres than most of the other drivers here. Troy also diving into the pits, so it does look as though the Inters are proving to be quite high on wear, and those that will be able to get to the end of the race will be rewarded.
Yeah, Hasnain's caught Mikey up tremendously in the last couple of laps, so I actually think that Mikey's probably going to be the next one to pit. We will of course see. Is he going to pit this time? No, he does not.
Extends a little bit.
He crosses the line in 12th position.
Brown loses it. Yeah. I was just had eyes on Mikey, and then his teammate comes around in the background and almost shunts it into the wall, Antonio Giovinazzi style, but just about holds on to it. All four tyres locked up to hold the slide. Definitely tyres starting to go off for the majority of the drivers now. Troy has rejoined just in between James and Scythe. Of course, Scythe running off a bit earlier, losing that position, as we have a yellow in Sector 1.
I don't... Oh, it's Captain Morgan.
Yeah. We've had one too many spice runs.
Or should I say Captain Bloody Useless? Somebody who isn't useless is well, Liverpool have just scored.
Ooh. Is that Ben in the pits?
Ben Pitts, yes it is. Oh, so that's City out aggregate.
Thanks for that update, Jeff. Gerard and Tom both continuing round. Now they are in very good positions here. Gerard will be shortly overtaken by Ben. I'm sure he's just exited the pits, but if they can get to the end, they are looking at a potential sort of 5th and 6th place, assuming Guy would get past them. That would be really fantastic for both of those drivers, especially considering Gerard started, I think, on the back row, if not 3rd from last. So very interesting how they've played that strategy.
As Brown pits, didn't he just pit? No, he didn't pit. He was having a spin, wasn't he? But yes, we've got 6 laps of this race remaining. We've got Ben trying to get his podium position back. We've got Troy attacking the back of Drew as well for 7th position. We've got Andrea just making a position there as Brown's in the pits. We haven't really got that much movement as Ben finally does pass in the long right-hander. I'm not quite sure what happened there. Maybe he ran a little wide and managed to take advantage. Drew and Troy having a battle into that left-hander, and now they're on the back straight, so it looks like Troy is going to have an easy pass.
Yeah, Drew defending it fairly hard. Well, it's... Oh my word, Drew just about muscling him out and keeping that position, but Troy should have plenty of traction at his disposal. I wouldn't chuck it down the inside of the final corner, and he's not going to. Bit too much of a short apex to try something like that, but he does have the run.
Drew trying to squeeze him into the pit wall.
Doesn't want to let this go, but he's
and
picked
then
his battle
just drive
poorly.
straight off the road.
You've got to know when someone's got the advantage on you and just
done,
let them go. But yeah, Troy eventually getting past there. I mean, it's difficult for Sean to know what to do. If he's tight on tyres, you'd ideally want to mirror what Ben's done, get the pit stop out of the way, come out well ahead of him and not have to worry about having a puncture towards the end of the race. But unfortunately for him, Gatis is right planted in the middle of that gap, so if he was to mirror what Ben's done just to cover him off, he'd then find himself behind Gatis on track, who may well be able to go to the end. So it's a bit of a difficult decision for Sean to make, but if he's got the confidence that he can get to the line without suffering any sort of puncture, then that's his decision to make, and he seems fairly confident pounding around as he does now. His pace looking fairly decent at this point. So yeah, we'll see if he can in fact get this set of tyres to the checkered flag.
Yeah, the only other thing you got to think about as well is if Sean was to pit now, he may or may not end up behind Ben at this point. Ben doing pretty decent lap times on those new intermediate tyres compared with his forward ones. So, you know, if he was going to pit, he would have done it by now. He's probably in a position now where even if he did pit, he would lose second as well as the lead.
Yep, the gap to... Oh, Scythe going into the naughty book. We haven't had too many penalties today, but he's run a bit wide. We do have a 10th, 11th, 12th for Scythe, Mitchell and Mikey, so that's a fairly prestigious midfield group.
Mitchell's just gone down the inside of Scythe. Scythe keeps it on the inside of the corner, then bang wheels a little bit as they go through turns 3. Who's going to win the drag race down to turns 5 and 6? They're still side by side, but I think Mitchell's just about got it. He does. Scythe diving down the inside, though. He's not going to give that up. He runs wide, and Mitchell's just going to pluck that place back again. That was a nice little battle there, even if it did last a couple of corners. It is good to see Scythe back on the track, though, I must say.
Yeah, lovely little attempt to just try and nick the place back at turn 6, catch Mitchell unawares, just overcooked it slightly, but it's controlled, positive driving that we love to see. Obviously these two have been in race department for absolutely donkey's years, probably stretching back to something like F1 2010 or whatever, when I was about 3 years old, so good to see them battling on track, even if it is for 10th place, which Mitchell absolutely loves this season.
Oh dear, we've got Andrea and Brown having a fight down there in turn 6 with Brown prevailing. I did just see somebody make a move. I think Guy made a move. Indeed, Guy made the move on Thomas down there in the hairpin, so he's up to 5th. Thomas, though, isn't going to give that up. Hopefully he's going to glue himself to the back of Guy's car and continue the battle. While all that's going on, we've still got our little Armageddon section, even if it's stretching out a little bit. We've got James, Mitchell and Scythe and Drew, actually, I forgot to mention. He's the one leading the pack, surprisingly.
Yeah, he's doing the holding up. And he has been on those tyres for quite a long time, so I think that's probably the main reason for it. Yeah, I don't think, it doesn't look like Thomas is able to stick with Guy on much fresher tyres. He'll be looking at trying to take Joe for a 4th place, which would be an absolutely fantastic finish for Guy. Really good race from him, strategy-wise, and his pace was decent in quali as well. So all-round good race from him. Frederick in the pits to cap off a fairly dismal afternoon for him. Speaking of dismal afternoons, Mikey is the biggest loser, dropping 9 places, but Gerard has gained 15 positions from his starting grid slot, so that's an absolutely heroic effort from him, and he's got 2 more laps to defend from Guy for that 4th place.
And I kind of hope he does. I mean, with a gain of 15 places, that's a fantastic drive from him. Like I said, pretty bad drive there for Mikey. Other noticeable drives, James, who's just about to get overtaken by Mitchell. He was up 8 places, he's now up 7 places. Mitchell does a pretty textbook overtake into the hairpin for the 9th position, so he does look like he's going to score more than a point in a race this season. That being said, he's got to finish the race. Hasnain with a penalty as well, just to top off a rather unspectacular race from him.
Yeah, one of the few drivers to make 3 stops, getting completely caught out by the weather. I think he had to dive into the pits fairly early on. He committed to going onto the super sauce for another stint, but it hasn't worked out for him. If Guy does manage to get this 4th place, it will be his joint best result on this game. He got P4, I believe, last season in the finale at Abu Dhabi. Can he replicate that? The gap is still 2 seconds to Gerard ahead of him, so he has stops sort of closing the gap in, and that's fantastic pace. Gerard's been on those tyres for a long time. He's just done the 1 stop this race, and is able to compete with Guy pace-wise, so looking like Gerard is going to bring it home in 4th, providing he doesn't get a puncture.
I would just like to point something else out as well. It's not raining.
Yeah.
I mean, we've only got 2 laps left, so I don't think it's going to affect things too much. But, I mean, we have seen some rather bizarre things out of Codemasters, so it wouldn't surprise me if all of a sudden the track is bone dry and everybody's tyres blow up. But
it can happen. It can switch much quicker than you'd expect, as Wooly Mikey tops a beautiful afternoon. He'll need some hugs and kisses in the shower after this one.
And he's pitted.
Brilliant.
Sife's pitted as well. Oh, I know what this is. They're either their tyres are done, or no, they're... Yep, I knew it. They're both pitting for the fastest lap.
Mikey has to serve his penalty, which is a bit... well, a bit ridiculous really, but yeah.
Yes, I hope you saw that. I've just witnessed Sif completely dropping on the pit exit and crash into the barrier. And he's gone off as well. Oh my god, these two are completely ridiculous. There is no way this slick tyre is a tyre to use.
I saw the aftermath of it, but the important thing is you've got it on stream. Sife's squirreling about. He's all over the place, but as is Mikey. Maybe they're just going out for a bit of fun. I'm not sure. The track does look to be drying up visually fairly quickly, so we'll see if they can, in fact, get a fastest lap as Andrew and Mitchell side by side around turns 12 and 13, coming onto the back straight. Andrew just holding it in front of his teammate Mitchell, dips back into the slipstream. These two were battling on the last lap in Bahrain last time out. Mitchell getting the better of Andrew that time. Andrew once again finding himself defending from his reigning world champion teammate.
Yeah, I know Drew gets really annoyed with me when I call out the conspiracy of team orders, but every single time that Mitchell happens to be anywhere near him, as one of the Toro Rossos goes flying off in the back of my shot. But Oh dear, Mitchell diving down the inside. What a move that was. Schumacher-esque from 2006 to get that position off of his teammate Drew. I don't think I will call team orders on that, because that was pretty impressive.
Sean has a right rear puncture on my screen. I'm not sure if that's sometimes it's a visual thing from the spectators, but he's losing
No, he does
a
have a
second
right
every
rear
split
puncture.
to Gatis, and on the final lap,
I
our
don't
race leader
believe
has a
this.
puncture.
Where's Gatis? Gatis is on the pitch straight. Not on the pitch straight, on the back straight as well. Oh my goodness me, Gatis could end up winning this race. Oh, Sean can't even get it out the corner. There's Gatis in the background. I think Gatis might have a puncture. No, he doesn't have a puncture. Sean might just get this. No, he's not. Is he going to get it? It's going to be on the line. Sean just crosses the line to win that by 0.2 of a second.
I can't believe what I've just witnessed. That was an incredible finish. You could not have scripted that any better, as Andrew goes defensive from Mitchell now into turn 14. Will we see a return of team orders? Mitchell trying to get the undercut. We've got racing right to the flag here in China, as Andrew holds the inside line and shoves Mitchell out of the corner there, just about.
There's a horse on
hold on to it, but there's a horse.
the track as well.
Gerard, I think, in celebration of P4, has clouted the wall. Absolutely fantastic result for him. But yeah, breathtaking finish to that Grand Prix.
Speaking of breathtaking finish, look at Saif, Mikey, and Andrea, who's driven through the middle of the pair of them as these two dicks drive around on the option tyre.
Saif looking at the inside.
Saif down the inside. No way is he going to get that stopped. Oh, very nearly taking Andrea out. Mikey's just going to drive straight past him, and Saif has to concede that position. I gotta say, my two little brothers are complete idiots out on track there. Saif very nearly stacking into the barriers. What an ending that was. And where is Captain Morgan? He's just coming down the back straight now.
4 laps down from the leader. Heroic effort.
My
4
God,
stops.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what his reaction to this is, as he almost drives off the circuit there as well.
I'm absolutely speechless. I cannot believe the last lap we witnessed. Just then, action happening all over the place, and I think Gatis will be absolutely gutted to miss out on the win by less than 0.2 of a second there. Sean went for the taking the inters all the way to the end option, and it almost came back to bite him. What a final lap that was.
I don't even know where to even begin with that one. Sean just about managing to cross the line to take a well-deserved victory, I've got to say. Gatis in second position. We've got Ben there in third. And Mikey complaining of yet more lag, only this time apparently he lagged underneath the track, so I can't wait to see that video.
The only important thing is that you got Saif stacking it on the exit of the pits.
Oh
Everything
my
else
God,
can be
I need to go back and I need to find that, because that was hilarious. I think he just caught the grass coming out of the pits and put his foot down and just went straight to the scene of the accident, as Martin Brundle would say. But there we go. Sean is your race winner. Gatis in second. Ben in third, as I mentioned. We've got Gerard in fourth. Guy in fifth. We've got Troy in sixth. Thomas in seventh. Drew in eighth. Mitchell scoring more than a point in a race this season. He finishes ninth. And James rounds out your top 10 point scorers. And we've got Hasnain, Brown, and everybody else. Mikey and Saif rounding out a rather spectacular final lap. One thing I've got to ask you, of course, as we do every race, who's your driver of the day? Although I think I already know who that's going to be.
Yeah, there's not much debating this one this week. It's got to go to Super Sharpshooter for his incredible lack of car control.
That actually wasn't who I thought you were going to go for, but...
No, definitely Gerard gets this from me. Climbing from 19th to P4. Never easy. Very, very solid pace on his knackered tyres at the end. Showing up Thomas a little bit, who was on a similar strategy. But that being said, really good results for Thomas in the Toro Rosso. Also, Guy in the Renault had a great race. And of course, James, the reserve, getting a point. You should be very happy with that. But yes, standout performer today was definitely Gerard coming home P4.
And yeah, I've got to agree with you on that one. We've currently got an argument going on in the PSN lobby about Troy and Thomas, I think, having a go at each other. But yeah, what a fun race that was. I know I mentioned earlier on in the race that wet races here in this league aren't exactly the best, but that was very, very good. It's very, very rare that we get last laps like that.
Yeah. 3 separate huge battles at the end there. I mean, and they were spaced perfectly, so we got viewing time for each of them. Really good from a spectator's point of view. But yeah, I haven't seen a last lap like that in any league. Reminiscent to sort of Canada 2011 in terms of dramatic last laps, except there was even more action. But yeah, absolutely fantastic to witness.
Yeah, so our next race is the European Grand Prix at Baku. Next time out, next week at the same time. I believe, I can't remember if it was a wet race or not last season. I know there was some sort of rain effect at some point. It might have been when I was racing a couple of seasons ago.
We had a wet quali last season. Wet quali, which turned into a dry race, which some Williams won. Completely dominated.
Yes, I thought you would bring that up.
Yes, and Lynchy I don't think was particularly happy at all after clouting his front wing at some point. After being, he was the fastest man on the circuit, and then I got a disgusting undercut and he got stuck behind me with no aero on my car for the whole race. And then his frustration hit the wall and dropped off down to 3rd on the final straight. That
was quite funny, actually. I do remember his rage from that. It's also been pointed out to me, rightly so, that Baku is not the European Grand Prix this season. It was last season, but it's now just the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. So we might have to change that.
Yeah.
In the table. But
blame Jerry.
But like I said, the next race is the Azerbaijan Grand Prix this time next week. So I hope you enjoyed that one. I know we thoroughly enjoyed it, and I can't wait to watch it back, just to watch Scythe put it in the wall coming out of the pits, and seeing Captain Special ending up 4 laps down, and seeing Sharpshooter be completely useless. So yes, from Michael and myself, it's been a pleasure bringing you this Grand Prix, and we will be back next week.